This is Comic Geek Speak episode 1747, Previews.
So laser beams, opinions like the seasons on everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek, uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is.
I'm Adam Murdo.
I'm Ian Levinstein.
And I'm Chris Everly.
Woo! Merge, you're a little too close to the mic. By the way, you're a little too loud.
Oh, beg your pardon. I was holding it up to my mouth just for added impact, and I think I just impacted a little too hard.
No problemo.
Sledgehammer to the eardrums. I apologize.
I'll go ahead and go old school professionalism right out the window.
There you go. There's a little pantaloons moment for us.
Yes. It is previews time again, gentlemen.
Indeed it is.
Yep. And which previews number is this, Murd?
It is number 371, the catalog for August 2019, covering publications reaching stores mostly in October.
Excellent. And, of course, it's previews time, so what does that mean, Murd?
Well, that means that this episode is brought to our listeners by our longest tenured and favorite sponsor here at CGS, Discount Comic Book Service. The website is dcbservice.com, and it should be your first stop for all of your comic book online pre-ordering needs. They are well known for their generous discounts on new comics. New single-issue comics from Marvel, DC, Image, and Dark Horse are all automatically 40% off the cover price. Other publishers, it's generally something like 35% off. New hardcovers and trade paperbacks from Marvel and DC start at 50% off. There's always certain specials that they run every month, certain key books from various publishers that are 50% off cover price, and every once in a while there will be a special 75% off bargain. We'll be telling you about some of those as we progress through this episode. And there's also the famous DCBS bundles, under which deal you are given the opportunity to buy a large assortment of comics from a single publisher or imprint or pertaining to a single crossover, some thread in common, and you'll get to buy that whole stack of comics for 50% off the combined cover price of every comic included. Very generous offer, and DCBS does a bunch of those every month. Like, for example, this month there are several different DC bundles, including a bundle of those acetate cover comics for the Year of the Villain event that DC is soliciting an extra month in advance because those acetate covers are hard to crank out, apparently. And, of course, let's not forget the excellent DCBS customer service. You contact them, and somebody out there at their home office in the Midwest, Cameron or his wife or one of the other guys and gals in their home office will remedy whatever problem is ailing you in short order. Sometimes they're almost downright prescient as far as solving their customers' problems before the customer even makes them known to them. You have the option of bagging and boarding your comics when you pre-order them for a slight extra fee. You can determine how often you want your comics shipped to you, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, and so on. It's just a really handy-dandy setup. It's been a godsend to a lot of us here at CGS for various reasons over the years. It's my one and only source for comic books while I'm stuck down here in exile in South Jersey for months on end without an LCS within driving distance. So we encourage everyone out there to go to dcbservice.com and find out what the Discount Comic Book Service can do for you as far as getting you your comics shipped to you via pre-order online.
Also, it slices, dices, and makes julienne fries.
El Murdo, that was an especially outstanding testimonial, my friend. Well done.
Thank you, Chris. Just gratitude to our sponsors swells in the heart of the American Murd.
I look forward to the spin-off, The American Bird, coming soon. Alrighty.
All right.
So we begin with Image.
Yes.
As yet again, they list the Halloween stuff at the beginning, but we did cover that last month, so we'll go ahead and skip over that this time.
All righty. Image indeed.
Okay. Right there on the first page for Image, on page 46, we have a new series by David Hine and Brian Haberlin called The Marked. And the Marked may look like cool young influencers, but beneath the designer clothes, their bodies are tattooed with the magical glyphs of an ancient order that secretly protects the world against evil forces. So they're not the stonecutters, they're good.
We do.
Ian, didn't David Hine write, what was the name of that Bishop series?
Oh, was that District X?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did he write that?
I think he might have. It rings a bell.
That was a really good series.
It was really good. Yeah, it was a very interesting take on the Bishop character and mutants in general.
And also putting him in a police procedural, essentially. So
Yep.
I enjoyed that book. So that puts some stock in considering this book.
Yep, it was indeed David Hine with art by David Yardan and Lan Medina.
Okay.
Yep. And this time around, his artist is Brian Haberlin is the artist and cover artist.
I like the art immensely.
Yep. Looks very interesting, and that is a 50% off comic as well on DCBS for $1.99.
Well, the next book, because Image usually puts new number ones in the front of their catalog section, but No Men Omen number 1 of 15. Right away, I have to give props because part 1 is called Total Eclipse of the Heart. So, and they got alternate covers by the great Becky Cloonan and the great Olivier Coipel. So there's nothing to sneeze at right there either. Writer Marco B. Bucci, art, forgive me, I mispronounced this, Jacopo Camagni.
Yeah.
Forgive me again, I probably butchered that. But no matter how fast you run, sooner or later your past will catch up with you. Enter Becky Kumar, a geeky 20-year-old from New York City who is about to cross the veil between our reality and a realm of otherworldly truths. A tale of witchcraft and secrets for mature readers that rewires the rules of urban fantasy. It's interesting.
Yeah, the art certainly pops.
It sure does.
Taking a look at it, both the character designs and the coloring are very striking.
Yeah, that opening page is showing us here is actually quite beautiful.
Yep. That's another 50% off book, by the way. Yet again for $1.99.
And Previews does have a 3-page sample you can read over of the book.
Yep.
Now, Murd, were you a Chrononauts fan? Was that you?
I think it was Shane, actually.
Shane? Okay.
Yeah, we did an off-the-rack month where we did this book and another time travel-related series from Dark Horse and a third thing. And Shane was definitely the most impressed with Mark Miller's Chrononauts of those of us who were participating. And Image is really hitting us over the head with this. It's a weekly 4-issue miniseries, and they've devoted one full catalog page to each of those 4 issues in this catalog.
Did you like Chrononauts? I don't recall it myself.
I didn't really get past the first issue.
Okay.
I think I own the first trade, but I haven't actually read it. So I may just give it a peruse just to see whether I actually am interested in further.
Yeah, I'm trying to get together in my head what exactly it was I didn't like about it. Just main characters at a little... I didn't find them especially likable, and the whole thing had too much of that Mark Miller swagger that's kind of a turn-off in general. I don't really support a lot of his projects these days.
Well, if you had told me that issue 3 featured Adam Strange, I would believe you. Just for how much that spacesuit design looks just like it.
Totally see your point. Plus, the bald guy with the goggles kind of looks like his father-in-law Sardath.
Yep. Well, they're certainly going heavy on the referencing.
Yes, Miller has been known to do that.
Sure has.
I'm looking on page 59. Dead Eyes number 1, writer Jerry Duggan, art the great John McCrae, who some listeners probably know from the classic Hitman series he did with Garth Ennis. I'm failing. I think they already did a one-shot with this character.
Well, they did 2 issues of an ongoing series under the title Dead Rabbit.
Dead Rabbit, that's right.
Right. and then they had to stop and start over because they were hit with a cease and desist by a bar and restaurant in New York City that already had a trademark on that name.
Yep.
So back to square one, but with a different name for the main character.
Okay, because I really enjoyed the first issue of Dead Rabbit. And it actually says here in the advertising copy, you can't keep a good comic down.
Yep.
So, all right, great. I'll go return to this because I enjoy what I read thus far. I mean, it's an outstanding creative team. And it's the classic idea of a very gifted criminal who has to come back to the life for reasons that he has no choice. And what I read so far was excellent.
And you may have heard this one before, but it's 50% off at DCBS for $1.99.
All right, I got to point out, I'm just jumping into page 63. So whenever they take a Brubaker Phillips storyline and they put it all in one hardcover, I just buy it. Doesn't matter. I read the whole thing when it's coming out in floppies. These I want on my bookshelf. In fact, over this, when I went to Florida last month on a vacation, I took this is Brubaker and Epting, but I reread the classic in one sitting, the classic Velvet saga of the espionage agent, which is one of the greatest espionage stories I've ever seen in comic book format. If you're a fan of espionage yarns, you haven't read Velvet, please do yourself a favor and grab the trades or the hardcover. But this Kill or Be Killed, which is Brubaker and Phillips' take on sort of the concept of the urban vigilante, with some supernatural elements potentially thrown in, outstanding. To me, this is still the greatest creative team in comics right now. So that's issues 1 through 20 collected in one cover, and I will be purchasing that.
Have you seen what waits on page 65, Chris?
Murd? Damn. Yeah. He's just the greatest wingman ever, isn't he, ladies and gentlemen? Fantastic.
Running to the trenches with that bucket of ammo for you.
That's right. That's right. This is – I raved about this when it came out on hardcover. This is tied into their criminal series of stories. This will be an Eisner. I would be surprised if it's not.
Mm.
I don't want to spoil anything. Again, if readers are interested in noir, if you're interested in gritty, crime-oriented stories, just all of their work is you should try it. Whether it's Criminal, whether it's Fatale, whether it's Incognito, go back to Sleeper and Wildstorm. They all have these elements that are just so compelling and so reverential to a lot of the source material that they're deriving this from. I don't mean they're copying things, just that you can see the influences. And what they give you the bang for the buck because the individual issues, I only buy a handful of individual floppies now per month. But I always get their work because they always have an essay in the back and more original art, and they talk about films or different other elements in media that have influenced their stories. So this is some of the best stuff on the stands.
Well, it did get a lot of nods from the listeners during the voting for the CGS Best of 2018 awards.
Ah, yes.
And now that it's available in softcover for the first time, I think the time has come for me to give it a try.
Word. And I know you're not. And usually you're not a crime guy, so that's high praise.
I want to run back to page 60 real quick. As much for the thought as for anything. Thought Bubble Anthology 2019. It has writers and artists, the names of Becky Cloonan, Jerry Duggan, Abigail Jill Harding, Lee Garbett, Jock, and a bunch of others involved. And it's for a good cause. This is an anthology of new short stories. All proceeds from this comic are going directly to Barnardo's, one of the largest children's charities in the UK.
Terrific.
So absolutely worth picking up if you're looking for some short stories from some of the best people in the business. All of this was brought together by the Thought Bubble Festival, which takes place in Yorkshire, England, on November 4th through 10th of 2019.
Plus, it's always a pleasure to take in top flight creators doing a one-and-done story.
Yep.
So
definitely.
While we're hopping backwards in the pagination here, let me just take us back one further notch to page 58. I'm kind of excited about this. It's the first issue of an ongoing series for Michel Fief's Copra, a series which has only been offered in self-published graphic novel format to this point. 5 volumes, I think, published. And now it's moved completely from Fief's own Bergen Street Press to Image Comics, and a monthly comic is going to be published. And Cobra it's kind of an offbeat indie comics love letter to the classic 80s run of Suicide Squad by John Ostrander and Luke McDonnell, I believe, and others. If you look at the front cover of the first issue here, you can kind of see the Deadshot guy. You can see the Shade the Changing Man guy. You can see the Bronze Tiger guy. There's play with analogs here, but there's also some really original characters thrown in, and some of them not even based on DC characters. There's like stand-ins for the Punisher and Doctor Strange that make appearances too. It's really original stuff, and it's got a very unusual flavor to it, and it's good for anybody who happens to be a fan, as Michel Fief himself is, of those heady 80s international black ops featuring supervillains stories that John Ostrander spun back in those days. It's probably better than anything DC is doing with Suicide Squad right now, if we're being honest, so I do recommend it.
Sounds good here.
It's an ironclad testimonial from the Murd, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
Anything else from Image Brothers?
I have on page 68, Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, the trade paperback. And I'm interested not only for the fact that it's Jim Rugg, and I do appreciate his work a lot, but just from the first sentence alone, Jessie Street Angel Sanchez is a homeless ninja girl on a skateboard. If you want to sell me on a project, that's how you're going to do it. Because that sounds awesome, and I am immediately interested. And it collects a whole bunch of different one-shots with Street Angel over the years or the months, and collects it all into one Deadliest Girl Alive trade paperback. And once again, that's on page 68.
Yeah, Jim Rugg gave us Aphrodisiac, and that alone is enough to make me pay attention whenever a new project of his is announced. So.
Yep.
Good pick there, Ian.
Thank you.
Page right before that, on page 67, second volume of Dean Haspel's Red Hook, which is, I think, a digital first comic. So Image has already published the first volume, collecting it, and it's the story of a costumed thief who is shanghaied by fate and supernatural forces into acting as a superhero. So it's a little bit of a distantly Thunderbolts-esque tale of villainy and redemption. And it also involves a semi-sentient city, I believe. So it's some interesting ideas floating around in there. I'm definitely going to buy the second volume.
Always loved Dean Haspel's artwork.
And I'll, of course, mention on page 75, issue 2 of Battle Pug.
From Naughton and also Naughton.
Exactly.
And I'll mention on page 88, no saga yet.
Nope.
And I am patiently waiting because it's certainly always worth it. But man, that is just a gaping void in my reading experience.
I feel like someone should put out a comic called No Saga Yet to fill the hole.
No saga tonight in my coffee. No saga tonight in my tea.
Oh God.
That's a pants-worthy joke there. Radio.
I'm imagining his unhinged cackling as we speak.
Me too, Chris. Me too.
You guys ready for Dark Horse?
Yep.
Let's ride.
All right. Oh, we're riding. Now I imagine Murd on a chopper. You know, the sunglasses, the sideburns, the scarf thrown around his neck, and the wind and the hair. Just right at an Easy Rider. Just Dennis Hopper right next to him.
Highly appealing image, Chris. But I was making a horse pun, actually. So
I know. Okay, I have to speak right away on page 100 because anytime Matt Wagner has a new project, I'm immediately on board. And I've always loved the Grendel character. Remember, many years ago, I was first introduced to Grendel through the War Child miniseries did that sometime in the 1990s. I remember the exact year. That blew me away. I'd never seen Wagner's art before, the way he just handled violence. And that particular story is sort of like an epic road adventure in this far future. And to see that the character, that Grendel Prime, come back in a new series written and drawn by Wagner, I'm getting this. So if you're a fan of indie comics and the history of indie comics, the Grendel and Mage stories from the Comico label They're all reprinted now under different publishers, but great stuff. Some of the best independent comics being produced in the 1980s.
Right above that, by the way, on page 98, perfect for on sale October 23rd. Count Crowley, Reluctant Midnight Monster Hunter, number 1 of 4, by David Dastmalchian and Lucas Kettner. And it looks creepy, it looks crawly, and it looks a little bit Rocky Horror, and that immediately catches my eye for the Halloween season.
It looks like Joe Flaherty's Count Floyd character from SCTV meets Kolchak the Night Stalker. It's going to be a howling good time.
Sure is.
I have not read on page 102. I have not read the first issue of Black Hammer Justice League. I have it on my pile. So I'll talk more about that in probably our next comic talk. But looking forward to that immensely.
Ooh, right below 104. Ann Nesenti has a new comic.
Ann Nesenti, yes.
Beautiful.
Welcome back.
Yes. Ruby Falls number 1. Ann Nesenti with the writer and Flavia Biondi as the artist, both of the cover and of the insides. And Ruby Falls is a sleepy town, but sleep brings nightmares. And Lana's about to wake up in the middle of her hometown's biggest secret, the disappearance of infamously progressive Betty Gallagher during the mobster-ruled heyday of the old mining town. Some noir action here from the looks of that art too, and I am probably in. If
some listeners aren't familiar with why we're so enthusiastic, Ann Nesenti was one of Marvel's top writers in like the mid-latter 1980s. She did a lot of great work. She has a pretty celebrated run on Daredevil, among other things. She co-created Longshot. Right? Am I correct in saying that?
I believe so.
Yeah. So excellent writer. So this is welcome news. Ian, I know you're an Orville fan. Are you reading the comic book adaptation?
Not yet. But I'm waiting for a sale basically. Once I see a 99-cent sale on Comixology, which is bound to happen, I will pick it up, but I'm waiting on that. They did just announce that the Orville is going straight to Hulu for its 3rd season. It will not be airing on Fox like originally intended. So that'll be, I think season 3 had to be delayed, and because of that, Seth MacFarlane made a deal with Fox to still have it happen. It just will only be happening on streaming as opposed to on the network.
That's going to be the future more and more for television. So,
yep.
I want to point out on page 110. Wow. Choke. Gasp. The best of 75 years of EC Comics.
Great reading, Chris.
Mert, from you, that's high praise, sir. Thank you. Yeah, I'm starting to warm up my theatrical teaching muscles for the coming weeks. But this is a great collection. Look at this. So the great stories from 75 years of EC: crime, suspense stories, frontline combat, Heart of Fear, Impact, Shock Suspense, Tales of the Crypt, Two-Fisted Tales, etc., and so forth. Great stuff. $50 before the discount.
I want to jump down to page 115. Kabuki Omnibus, Volume 1. It's been a while since I've even heard Kabuki mentioned.
I didn't realize it's been 25 years of Kabuki.
Neither did I.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know for a while it was coming out under Marvel's Icon line, and it's since ceased over there, but it's nice to see that Dark Horse picked up the collections, at least, and a whole giant omnibus of Kabuki will be coming out on sale December 11th with art and writing by David Mack.
We should mention that. I've read some Kabuki, not all of it. His artistic style gets more and more innovative and inventive as the series progresses. Do you know what I'm talking about, Ian?
Oh yeah, you could see that. You could see that even in his Daredevil work, because comparing that to when he first came on the title for the Echo storyline, and then later on with the fill-in work he did on New Avengers and a couple other Daredevil things, it was almost like a painted style. So certainly changed over the years.
Actually, I had a question.
Sure.
Because I've only read a little bit of Hellboy. What I've read, I really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. Did I hear the movie flop terribly?
It sure did.
The most recent one did, yeah.
Yep.
It did, okay.
Yeah.
Because I was considering seeing it, but it was barely a speck in the theaters, then it was gone.
Yeah, it's already on digital. So if you want to do the $3 rental, I'd say it's probably only like $1.50 rental, to be honest. From what I've heard about it,
Okay.
I've not seen it myself. I'm just going off of what other people have said. But Mignola did not have a lot of input in the movie, and it seemed like they went dark for the sake of dark.
Yeah.
And
All gore and no brains is what I heard.
yeah, essentially, yeah.
That's too bad because David Harbour, I really love from Stranger Things. I believe he was playing Hellboy.
He was, yeah, and he's even voiced some disappointment in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately the case.
All right.
I will mention before we're done with Dark Horse, just randomly, the Disney's Little Mermaid #1 by Cecil Castellucci on page 119. I like mentioning Cecil Castellucci books, and interesting seeing a 3-issue miniseries retelling of the classic animated movie, The Little Mermaid.
It looks like they're giving it the same treatment they did Snow White here at Dark Horse over the past few months.
Yep.
It's going to be a first-person interior monologue from Ariel showing her reaction to the different beats of the film story.
Interesting.
All right, let's move on to DC.
Yep. That'll do with me.
Very excited when I open the cover and I see the name Joe Hill. Ian, have you read Lock and Key?
No, I have not, unfortunately.
Okay.
I may have read an issue and only an issue because I think it was for free on Free Comic Book Day at one point.
You will love it.
Yeah.
I second that.
Yeah, I highly recommend. That's something I can just see you really, really sinking your teeth into, Ian.
I'll give it a shot, definitely. Yeah, especially with this new series he's heading here.
Yeah, so Joe Hill, as many people probably know, is actually the son of Stephen King. And looks like he's partnering with DC to do a series of creator-owned horror comics. So as we know, DC has a long, prestigious history when it comes to horror comics. So it's great to see them partner with one of the top horror writers in the business right now.
Yep.
Basketful of Heads #1. I don't even care what the plot is. I want to read it just for the title. And it's because Joe Hill's writing it.
Certainly something that would have been a Vertigo book a couple of months ago, but instead it's Black Label.
Good point.
Yep.
Now let's look at some of the interesting writers on the next 2 pages. The Batman's Grave #1 by Warren Ellis, art by Brian Hitch and Kevin Nolan. Wow. And then Birds of Prey #1 by Brian Azzarello, art by Emanuela Lupacchino and Ray McCarthy.
Yeah, see, I'm a little hot and cold on Azzarello, so especially when it comes to female portrayals. So,
Right.
Yeah, he was one of the co-writers on the
Killing Joke animated movie.
You got it. Yep. Yeah. And the first half hour of that movie is almost unwatchable for me. So I'm hoping this is more female friendly and a little bit more down to earth and a little less sexy for the sake of being sexy that one was. But I guess we're gonna have to see.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that adaptation.
Yeah, I missed the mark for me as well. Yep. But I'm hoping I'm hoping that he proves something to me here. But I'll have to hear if you're gonna buy it, Chris. I'll have to hear what you think about it because
Ian,
yeah.
Allow me to pick up my rifle, load the magazine. This almost sounds like it's going to like a creepy, dangerous area.
Yeah.
I'm speaking symbolically, of course.
Yeah.
I will man the parapet.
Good.
And I will take a shot at Birds of Prey #1 for you.
I'm glad that's the direction you were going.
Yes. I'm not climbing the bell tower or anything. So
excellent.
Batman's Grave, though, Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch and Kevin Nolan. Wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
12 issues. Let's see if they can get all 12 of them out in one calendar year.
I love when Murray gets cynical.
Well, Murray, I think Batman's Grave is one of the reasons why Wildstorm was resolicited. Because I know that Ellis has been working on this one and probably was trying to keep up on that. And I feel like this is a more important project for DC at the moment than Wildcats.
Oh, yeah, I can easily see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but between him and Hitch, who has also had his problems with deadlines in the past, yeah, it's just seems like a disaster waiting to happen.
And on page 8, guys, Joker, Year of the Villain. Okay, I'm happy about both of these things. It's co-written by filmmaker John Carpenter and Anthony Birch, which yet again is a name that I'm probably more familiar with than you guys are. But he most recently wrote a Rocko's Modern Life miniseries, and I think is also doing a one-shot for Marvel. But he was one of the co-creators of the Hey Ash, What You Playin' web series that ran for years with his sister Ashley Birch, who's a prominent voice actress herself. And Anthony also wrote for the Borderlands video game series. And now he's stretching his writing chops over in comic books, and I could not be happier because he is a hilarious and often obtuse writer. So I hope that he brings that delightful combination to this pairing with John Carpenter.
Well, the Joker movie is coming out in October, right?
Yes, I believe so.
All right, so that's where we're seeing a lot of Joker stuff.
Yep.
I'm intrigued by, because I've always loved this writer, Paul Jenkins.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Always been a big fan of his work. The Inhumans miniseries. He'd had a magnificent run on Peter Parker's Spider-Man, which I thought was tremendous. A lot of other stuff he's done.
Didn't he do
Sentry, of course.
Didn't he do Untold Tales also?
No, that was Kurt Busiek.
That was Busiek. My mistake. Okay.
Yep. But Black Adam, You're the Villain, written by Paul Jenkins.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't too many years ago, just in the wake of Flashpoint and the New 52 and that whole shakeup, that Jenkins ran screaming from DC, and later described some of the treatment he'd gotten from the editors there as abusive. So, to me, it's as interesting to see Paul Jenkins back at DC writing anything as the fact that he's taking on Black Adam, who's one of the best big bads DC has. So this is raising a couple of eyebrows for me, and I'm definitely going to buy this issue to see what Jenkins turns in.
Yeah, well, time has passed, and maybe it's different editors.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, let's hope.
Yep. Interesting, because we noted in one of our last Comic Talk discussions how apparently, I think it was you mentioning, Ian, that Dan DiDio said at Comic-Con that he regrets putting out the facsimile editions.
Yeah.
So on page 9, we have one of the all-time classic Neil Adams covers, and the O'Neill written Batman 251.
Yep. Well, as our astute listeners pointed out in the on the forums for that episode's feedback thread, one of the reasons why these are selling is because not everyone's happy with the direction of the current DC universe, and they'd rather just read their stories from their youth again, which I respect and understand, but still the point does stand that when these are making more money than your ongoing comics, there's a problem.
Yeah. But unlike DiDio apparently did, you shouldn't conclude from this that putting the facsimile editions out is a mistake.
Yes.
You should conclude that you need to make your new comics a little better.
Yes, most definitely. I think that may have been the point he was trying to go at, but he's not the most eloquent speaker at times.
Yes, I definitely made that observation too about DiDio.
I want to point out on page 13, Jeff Lemire writing The Joker, Killer Smile. Art and cover by Andrea Sorrentino. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great team right there.
Look at that cover.
Yeah. That's a Care Andrews cover.
Yep. Whew. Love it.
Prestige format, 1 of 3.
So is this in continuity, or is this just a Joker story to be a Joker story?
That question is asked. Well, I personally empathize with it. Ian seems to mean less and less with each passing month.
Point well taken.
If it turns out to be a big sales success, then suddenly it'll be in continuity.
Yep. Just like every retelling of Superman's origin. If it does well, it's in continuity. If it doesn't do well, it never happened.
Speaking of Dan DiDio, on page 17, he's taking the writing helm for the first issue of a new Metal Men volume.
Mm-hmm. Out.
Murd, that was deeply, deeply pessimistic.
Yeah. I'll be entirely honest with you. I'm in Murd's camp.
Yeah, he's had his chance writing the Metal Men characters before and did not impress. So you're not going to fool me twice.
Although I will point out right on top of that, on page 16 would be issue 2 of the Legion of Superheroes Millennium series, which I am very much looking forward to.
Mm.
Nicola Scott is a fantastic artist.
Yep.
Oh,
Yes, she is.
And I'd love to know whose fingers those are holding the Legion ring.
Oh.
Because it kind of looks a little bit like the costume for Wally's son back in the original pre-52.
Oh, Jay, I think his
Yeah.
name, Jai Allen, or
Yep.
West, I mean.
Yep. Could be horribly wrong, but it does certainly remind me of it.
I like what DC's doing here on page 20. They're calling back to some of their classic Bronze Age formats. So Secrets of Sinister House, #1, written by, among others, Paul Dini, 80 pages. So I loved when I was buying and selling back issues. I love getting these types of books. They're very niche, but there's always people who wanted them because they were thick. They had a lot of stories in them. Great stuff. On the next page, wow. Superman Smashes the Klan, #1.
I think I'm in on this one.
I love the artwork.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And Gene Yang yet again writing a Superman character, and this is completely up my alley. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Captain America one shot that came out a couple of years ago that had a similar manga-esque style. Names escaping me on the actual.
Yeah, I can't remember it either.
Yeah, but I remember it was at one point supposed to be an ongoing, but they only got the first issue done and decided to just make it a one shot.
So it says here that it's 1946, so we're very much in the golden / Atom Age. And it centers on a Chinese family that's moved from Metropolis to Chinatown to the center of the bustling city. The two children, Bert and Tommy, are more excited about being close to their famous hero, Superman. As the Lees try to adjust to new lives, and evil is stirring in Metropolis, the Ku Klux Klan. When the Lee family awakens one night to find a burning cross in their lawn, they consider leaving town. Daily Planet offers a reward for information to the KKK, and their top 2 reporters, Lois and Clark Kent, dig into the story. This sounds really fun.
Oh yeah.
Prestige format, bi-monthly. There's almost like an animated feel to the art. And they have Superman in his classic Golden Age S with the black background on his chest. Plus, who doesn't want to see the Ku Klux Klan get their ass kicked?
Hear to that.
Shove that Confederate flag right up their hoods. So, did I say that? I did.
Oh no.
Yeah, traitors. Anyway, okay, so. What else, gentlemen?
The two things on the next 2 pages fascinate me. Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Batman Nightfall #1 by Snyder and Higgins, art by Javier Fernandez, and a cover by Lee Weeks. Sounds awesome.
Wow.
Yep. And then Tales from the Dark Multiverse, The Death of Superman #1 by Jeff Loveness, and art by Brad Walker and Andrew Hennessy, with a cover by Lee Weeks.
Lee Weeks covers.
Yep. And I love multiversal tales, and telling things gone horribly, horribly wrong, I also enjoy reading. So this should be good stuff.
The next page, again, I'm on page 24. So a whole host of 100-page giants. So that each one has new stories plus classic reprints. Scooby-Doo, Flash, Batman, DC Villains, Wonder Woman, Swamp Thing, Aquaman, DC Ghosts. That's great. Teen Titans Go, DC Superhero Girls. Wow. $4.99 each. And they'll be available in mass market outlets before they go on sale in comic shops.
I wish they gave us a little more information about creators and content for these things.
That's true, Mert, yeah.
But at least we know that there's new stories and also reprints in each one, which is the classic 100-page giant formula.
Yeah, I love the concept. I want to point out, I'm very impressed with the artwork. Page 27, Aquaman Annual 2. That artwork there is beautiful. Reminds me of almost like a newspaper strip from like the golden age of comic book newspaper strips, like a Flash Gordon or a Prince Valiant. It's beautiful artwork.
Yep.
On page 27. Art and cover by Victor Ibanez. Wow. What did the Aquaman movie make? About $1 billion?
Yes, it did.
Thereabouts, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hopefully the next one will be better written.
City of Bane continues on page 30. John Romita Jr. and Klaus Janson on art for a Tom King story.
What? Oh. And he's going to what, issue 85, I want to say? I forgot what the cutoff was for him.
Yeah, pretty sure, because I believe he said that it does still come out to 100 issues if you count the annuals. And he's going to be doing 12 issues after that of the Batman Catwoman.
Right. And look at Batman Annual 4. Oh, it's weeks again. Oh.
This time doing more than just covers.
Yeah.
You know, I still haven't read Batman Elmer Fudd. I know that's highly praised by you gentlemen.
Are you very sorry you haven't read it?
You know, Ian, I was pausing because I was expecting one of you to engage in a little funny and wordplay there. You let me down, honey.
Glad to not disappoint.
Levy Poo. Yeah, I don't care what the annual's about. I'm getting it. My God, that creative team. What else we got here? A lot of monthlies we've talked about before.
Page 36, we have the 4th issue of a series that has been a little bit less than monthly. I'm pretty sure it's been something like a year and a half since issue 3 came out. But Batman Creature of the Night number 4. Written by Kurt Busiek, art by John Paul Leon. This miniseries is Busiek taking the same approach that he used with Superman in the Secret Identity miniseries, which is somebody becoming a Superman in a more or less realistic world. It's like an Earth Prime story, basically. Doing the same thing with a Batman-type character named Bruce Wainwright. Been waiting a long time for that miniseries to finish itself up, and it looks like it's finally happening October 30th, just in time for All Hallows Eve.
Well, they'll definitely be collecting that for those who have completely forgotten about it.
I got to mention, I don't think I mentioned it last time, or actually, I don't think I was on last one, but on page 41, what Christopher Priest is doing with Deathstroke is so immensely satisfying to read. And he's taking the character through all these interesting twists and turns in terms of his psyche, how he relates to his children, what does it even mean to be Deathstroke. It is a tremendous series, and I have no doubt it's going to be remembered as a classic when he finishes his run. And the art by Carlo, I'm going to mispronounce his name, I apologized. Pagulan is tremendous. This is a great series. Not just saying that because it's Priest. It's just because, I love Priest, but he's really, really done an interesting take on this classic character. And being Priest, he knows every nook and cranny of the history behind everything.
Yep.
Which makes it even more interesting and satisfying.
And then on page 44, we have the conclusion of Deceased. 6th issue comes out. 5th issue was also solicited this month, but specifically that it's concluding here with the 6th issue written by Tom Taylor and art by Trevor Hairsine and Neil Edwards and Stefano Guadiano. It's been a surprise hit, and it's nice that it's concluding right in time for Halloween.
And hey, there's Detective Chimp.
Yep.
Have you been reading this, Ian?
I have the first issue, and I'm actually gonna pop that open soon. But I keep hearing such positive things about it that I'm gonna have to pick up all 6 once it's all said and done.
All right. Anybody keeping up with Green Lantern by Morrison? I only read the first issue.
Well, you haven't missed an issue yet, personally. And Morrison continues to drag all kinds of neat old Green Lantern concepts out of the toy box and float them onto the stage. And it looks like issue number 12 here is going to Hal Jordan versus his antimatter counterpart. And this is going to be the end of the Green Lantern run as such, but Morrison's got something else in mind for the characters under a different title coming out soon. So we'll definitely be on the lookout for that.
I'm pointing out because Ian, I know you've mentioned you got the first Hawkman volume of the Venditti run.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking on page 58, and art by Pat Olive and Tom Palmer. Wow!
Ooh, Pat!
What a great team!
That's awesome.
Yep, that would almost be enough to get Pants to pick up a comic again. Almost, because he does love him some Pat Olive artwork.
Yes, Olive has been my favorite for many a year.
I got a wax bitter nostalgia moment. In my first shop that was destroyed in a flood back in '99, I had met Pat Olive at a Pittsburgh con, and this is when original art was affordable. I bought several key Untold Tales of Spider-Man pages and got an original Green Goblin sketch from him, all destroyed in the flood.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Yeah, this very nice fellow. It was a pleasure to meet him, and great stuff. Murd, I assume you're going to be reading Inferior 5 by Keith Giffen and Jeff Lemire.
Afraid not, Chris.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not. Well, it's not the historical Inferior Five. It's not E. Nelson Bridwell's spoofy bunch of losers and misfits. Instead, it's just kind of like it's more of a Stranger Things kind of deal, set in the late '80s, around the time of the original Invasion miniseries, mixing in some random Kirby concepts like the DNA alien Angry Charlie, as seen here on the cover to number 2. I'm kind of interested in the Peacemaker backup story. That sounds cool, but the thing that they're releasing here under the title Inferior 5 does nothing for me. So I'm not buying this miniseries, especially not 12 issues worth.
I'm just jumping ahead. I wanted to shout out on page 64, Lois Lane number 4 by Rucka, art by Mike Perkins. I read the first issue of this, outstanding. And Rucka is using Lois Lane as again in her role as an investigative reporter to take on the U.S. government, how it's dealing with certain issues. One caveat to potential readers: if you're a big Donald Trump fan, you're not going to like this book. Because he's clearly ripping stuff from the headlines here in the issues he's addressing and how Lois is confronting them and what she thinks. First issue was great. No one really does stories like this better than Rucka, so I recommend that. You know, with keeping in mind the caveat that I mentioned. But hey, even if you are a big Donald Trump fan, you could try it and either hate it or find a new perspective. Who knows? If we can't think critically, look at things from different perspectives, we are truly screwed as a nation. Guess we're screwed then. All right, now.
I got page 72, Superman number 16 by Bendis and LaFuente. The Super Sons are back. And be a little bit of a different dynamic this time around, as Jonathan Kent has aged 5 years, so they're no longer contemporaries in age. But this will have Damian and Jonathan teaming up again for the first time in a while.
I have not read Jimmy Olsen by Fraction. I want to. Again, that's just budgetary reasons. But art and cover by Steve Lieber. Man, I got to catch up on that. Superman Year One, number 3. Now, didn't we someone ask if this is the same universe as The Dark Knight Returns?
Yes, I believe I did.
Now, if you look at it on page 75, sure looks like it is.
Yeah, that certainly looks familiar.
Again, I've read issue 1. Next time we have a comic talk, and also others of our merry band have read it. We can talk about this in more detail. I look forward to that. And I'll read issue 2 by then as well. What else, gentlemen?
Let's see, page 81, this year's Wonder Woman Annual, number 3, is the intro of incoming Wonder Woman series writer Steve Orlando. It ties into the event Leviathan story. It's got Wonder Woman versus a bunch of warriors from Gorilla City. And it's got artwork by V. Ken Marion, who is a very nice guy, kind of a member of the Michael Turner School of Comic Art, and he's also a CGS listener. So happy to give that a shout out.
Terrific. Thank you.
Hi, Steve.
Ian, go ahead. Ian, I'm looking on page 9. I assume Young Justice is still great.
It sure as hell is. Yeah, it had a month off, so we didn't get an August issue, but it does return in the next time around. And Young Justice number 9 looks like it's going to be a evil version of Young Justice versus a good version of Young Justice, and I am definitely sold on that. They're going through the multiverse, and they keep going to cooler and cooler Earths, and this time around it's the Earth of the crime syndicate. So we get to see what Young Justice looks like on the crime syndicate Earth.
Well, this is a book I read the first issue. I have to get this in trade because Ian, I utterly trust your taste, and you've said nothing but good things about this book. And I love the original Peter David run. So,
yep. Yeah.
Hey, Dollar Comics on page 91.
This is how I like reprints to be.
Yep.
Interesting story. I bought a copy of the original Joker number 1, first edition, for $1 once.
Heh.
Before we get too far beyond Wonder Comics, Ian, on page 89, have you noticed who's drawing the extended Wonder Twins miniseries now?
Oh, hey, it's Norton.
It's Norton!
Well, I liked Wonder Twins before, and I'm sure I'll like it even more now.
Mm-hmm. Same goes for me, Ian.
Awesome.
Page 92 and 93, they're reprinting stories that were originally published in some of the giant issues that were in mass market stores. Batman Universe number 4 by Brian Michael Bendis, art by Nick Darrington, and Superman Up in the Sky number 4, Tom King art by Andy Kubert and Sandra Hope. A Superman Flash race.
Yep.
Wow.
Going old school.
Look at Superman's eyes. That's so Kubert. Oh, that's tremendous. What's this acetate cover stuff I see here?
So the acetate covers, I believe, are another one of those lovely cover gimmicks that come out every now and then. And they're advancing them a month in advance. They're releasing these solicits a month in advance because they're going to be hard to make.
So when I see this is one of the reminders of why I really don't miss running a comic book store.
Yes, figuring out how to order all of these things would have been a challenge.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember. Did they do this with the New 52?
They did something similar with the New 52.
Maybe it wasn't the number ones, no, but there was something they did. I can't remember what the hell it was called.
It was a very similar event. I can't remember what it was called, but it was also villain-centric, and it involved lenticular covers.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, I hated every second of it. I remember I told my customers, I'm not ordering these unless you tell me what to get specifically. You will never see it on the shelf otherwise.
Yeah. And basically, it makes this this double the size essentially because they're soliciting all of next month's comics a month early.
Mm-hmm. That's why this month's DC Previews catalog is square bound.
Oh boy, yeah. Frankly, I don't.
You guys ready for trades?
Oh yeah, I'm ready for trades because we could talk about all these next month.
That's a good point. All right, Absolute Edition, Fourth World by Jack Kirby, Volume 1. That's page 118. Jimmy Olsen 133 to 145. Forever People 1 to 6. New Gods 1 to 6. Mr. Miracle 1 to 6. These have been reprinted many times, but these are obviously classics. This is some of the Kirby's vision that he brought when he left Marvel Disenchanted, brought it to DC in the early Bronze Age, and this is the culmination of that. Just such compelling stuff in terms of plot and art. And so many stories and concepts sprung out of this into the wider DC universe.
Oh, sure.
On page 119, they're doing the Aquaman Sword of Atlantis film on the Kurt Busiek run, art by Jackson Weiss. I want to return again to the masterful, I say again, masterful, spotlight episode Peter Rios helmed on Aquaman, where he did the national service of disentangling for the listeners the extremely convoluted history of Aquaman, including this part of it. I supplicate before the Rios. It's a great spotlight.
And on that very same page, Denny O'Neil and Jerry Ordway.
Yep.
The 1989 Batman movie adaptation deluxe edition. Boy, oh boy.
I remember it well.
Glad that they're putting that out again for the anniversary.
New version of the Books of Magic, which is a wonderful story by Neil Gaiman, art by John Bolton, Scott Hampton, Charles Vess, and Paul Johnson. Have you guys all read the Books of Magic?
It's been about 20 years, but yes, I have read it.
I've read the first volume.
Which is the trade we're looking at then?
Yes.
The original miniseries?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. Always dug it immensely. Some people tell me that, because I've never read the Harry Potter books. Some people tell me there's a lot of similarity between the two. I don't know, but
oh yeah, there definitely is. In fact, we were lamenting last month at the solicitation for the latest Books of Magic book. Pretty much had Harry Potter on the cover.
Okay. I'm looking at page 124. DC's One, the world's most dangerous supervillains. These are great Bronze Age stories. Just so much fun. A lot of great reprints.
Yep, that's. I have a complete run of this. This is one of the very first editorial assignments of my hero E. Nelson Bridwell. This was kind of one of his pet projects. And it was just a collection of reprinted stories from the Golden and earlier Silver Ages of, a bunch of villains that I don't think there was really any common thread for which villains were included other than that Bridwell liked them. And so, yeah, here we are. Now we have a reprinting of this series of reprints. It's as Chris said, they're all very fun stories. It's just kind of like holding a mirror up to a mirror, just reprinting reprints.
I heard you like reprints. I made a reprint of your reprints so you can reprint your reprints.
Ian, that was getting dangerously Borscht Belt there. My God.
Take my wife, please.
Oh boy. I expect to see Jackie Mason come out behind you or something like that.
It wouldn't be the first time.
Yep. Page 127. The classic Hellblazer by Garth Ennis collected an omnibus. This is great stuff.
Yep.
And Ennis worked on some of these stories with his future and very late lamented collaborator Steve Dillon, who later worked on Preacher, of course. Murd, I thought of you immediately. I'm skipping ahead here to page 132. Robin the Bronze Age Omnibus.
Yes, it is. Well, you might think of me when you see this, Chris, because this is a pretty strong temptation here. Yeah, a couple of stories from the Batman family, all of which I own, but a lot of other stuff too. It looks like it might be some of the Friedrich written Robin solo series of Robin off at college at Hudson University, his dalliance with psychic girl Terry Rothstein, and who knows what else. Yeah, these are some Bronze Age rarities. I think they may actually have me with this one, Chris. I think I might be buying. Well, you know what though? Hardcover. Never mind.
And it's pricey too. I mean, it's 900 pages, of course. But
well, yeah. So you are kind of getting your money's worth. But yeah, I am sorely tempted. I'll admit.
Anything else for DC, gentlemen?
I'm confused. They're soliciting the hardcover for Superman Year One.
I knew you to say something.
Like, how about you wait until it's over, guys?
Well, this will go on sale to November 6th.
Oh, excuse moi.
I got to say, because I read issue 1, I love the art. I mean, I've always been a Romita Jr. fan. The art in it I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
We could talk more about the story when we have more people have read it.
Yep. And the other thing I want to mention real quick, on page 136, they're collecting book 4 of the original Young Justice by Peter David and Todd Nauck.
Oh.
So issues 20 to 32 being collected, and it took them forever to collect this in trade. I'm glad that they're doing it piece by piece.
Great series.
Amen.
Ready for IDW?
Yep.
Page 134, Star Wars Adventures Return to Vader's Castle.
Yep, it's a follow-up to last year's Tales from Vader's Castle. It's basically Star Wars ghost stories.
That's Francesco Francavilla. What a great artist. Oh, man.
It's like 4 weekly issues, all of them written by Kevin Scott, with artwork by the aforementioned Signor Francavilla.
And Murd, on page 139, you still sticking with the ponies?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I am.
The book still delivers for you?
It's still being published monthly.
No, I mean, like you're still enjoying it.
Yeah, well, that was my way of evading the question, Chris.
Murd, I was slow on the uptake there. I apologize.
Quite all right.
Page 143, Marvel Solid Gold Superheroes. So Marvel's amazing, fantastic heroes from the golden age of comics punch Nazis and vanquish fifth columnists as we joyfully celebrate Marvel Comics' 80th anniversary. Look at this. Blazing Skull, Blonde Phantom, Terror, Sun Girl, Marvel Boy, The Wizard.
Yes, featured on the cover right there at the bottom center.
Wow, this is a hell of a collection.
He'll take the piss right out of you.
So Ian was one of those extras in Dirty Dancing. I never realized that. Wow.
My secret has been revealed.
Yeah, he was the pool boy at Kellerman's. All right.
145, we've got Addams Family The Bodies issue, and this is a tie-in to the Addams Family animated film that's coming out in October 2019.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Written by Zoe Quinn with art by Philip Murphy. And return to the Addams Family of old with a new spin.
Let's see. A lot of TMNT on page 150 and 151.
I wanted to ask you, Chris, on
Yes.
149, since we covered GI Joe #1 last previews. What's your
Yeah.
take? What's your take on this reimagining?
I'm reading the copy right now. So are they coming up with all new characters?
This is essentially what I described last previews as like ultimate GI Joe.
Oh, okay.
It's a new take on the whole GI Joe concept and Cobra as well, and it looks like an entirely separate continuity and separate ideas being brought forth than previous iterations of the characters.
Well, I might try the first issue. I mean, for me, what makes G.I. Joe compelling in the comics is that, and this is what Hama did so well, and because he's still writing the book now, I shouldn't say did so well. You kind of balance the innate absurdity of the whole thing with tongue-in-cheek humor, but also there's a strain of sincerity as well. Always remember you're dealing with a terrorist group that's running around basically in Halloween costumes and using a pyramid scheme to try to, take over a whole town to start things off, which is just great, of course. But when you have all that, but you also have the human element and the emotion, that's why I've always loved G.I. Joe. And if they can bring some of that balance to this, or maybe they're going to do it totally straight and deadly serious. I don't know.
Yeah. It looks more deadly serious,
Yeah.
maybe more along the lines of the Ellis take than previous versions. But
Oh, you mean G.I. Joe Resolute, the movie?
yes.
It's a fantastic movie, by the way.
Yep. All right. I've got something on 153, so if anybody...
I sure as hell do, too.
Yep.
Go ahead, man.
Rom Dire Wraiths #1. It's Rom, and he's back in IDW form.
And this time it's Retro Rom, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the moon landing.
Yep. And Chris Ryle is the writer with Lucia Pizzari, Guy Dorian, and Sal
most
Buscema.
importantly, Sal Buscema, who, of course, penciled Rom in the 80s for Marvel.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yep. And looks like Rom is missing, and we have to figure out whether or not the world is going to survive the attack of the Dire Wraiths without him.
The Rom comic in the 80s was excellent, by the way. It was really fun.
Yep.
All right, let's look on page 155. Put him in a body bag!
Sweep the
Cobra
leg.
Kai, the Karate Kid saga continues.
Oh boy.
Have you seen this YouTube series?
No, I have not. It's
I've heard it's really good.
It's supposed to be excellent.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I know. It was for pay for a while. I think it may be available for free now, but I have not. I've yet to check it out. Yeah.
So this is all from the perspective of Johnny.
Yep.
When the new kid makes moves on the girl that broke Johnny's heart, he vows to settle the score, win back her love. Or so goes the story Sensei Lawrence tells his students nearly 35 years later.
That's
That
pretty
movie,
cool.
I love that film.
It basically goes with the How I Met Your Mother take of it.
Yes.
That he's the hero. Yep. 157. Star Trek Voyager Mirrors and Smoke. Writer Paul Allure with art by the amazing J.K. Woodward.
Ugh.
Returning to the Mirror Universe, this time with the crew of Voyager. Very interested to see what that's going to be like.
I have on my wall here in my office 2 J.K. original commissions he did for me, which I'm so treasure. He did a Golden Age Sandman and then Blade, the Vampire Hunter.
Yep.
He's one of the top artists in the business.
The Invincible that he drew for me is still the gem of my collection.
Yep. And when he did the Ellis, the original Ellis version of Star Trek City on the Edge of Forever, that OGN. Oh my God, the artwork.
Yep.
We mentioned Joe Hill before on page 158, 159. Joe Hill, the graphic novel collection, which collects some of his other stories besides Lock and Key, The Cape 1969, Thumbprint, Kodiak. I've never read any of these. Wraith. I'm sure they're good. And then on page 159, Lock and Key nailed it. The Locke family saga came to a close, or did it?
Wow. So is this a one-shot?
It's a one-shot, yep.
Okay. Interesting.
Lock and Key TV series. Did that happen? Did I miss it? Or
Lock and Key TV series is still coming.
Still coming, okay.
I believe it's with Netflix, if I remember correctly.
well, if it's anything like the book, that could be a real sensation.
Yep.
I'm jumping ahead to page 168 because you just have to. So a new artisan edition, Chaykin, Star Wars, with 100 pages from the earliest stories, many from the first 10 issues. Not just Chaykin, also Walt Simonson, Michael Golden. My God. We talked about this when we did our spotlight on the Star Wars, the Marvel years. Chaykin was falling behind a deadline, so other artists also pitched in for those first few issues. That should be noted. Anything else for IDW, brothers?
I think that's it for me. Merge, you got anything?
Yep, I'm good to move on.
Marvel it is.
All right.
All right, Ian. Now we'll do a more intense discussion when we do our next comic talk. I read House of X #1.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to exploring this further, and then I hope this gets me back into the X-Men.
I hope it does as well, because I read issue 2 of House of X, because it's basically a bi-weekly series along with Powers of X or Powers of 10, and it's that second issue surprised me and in a way rewrote something in a way that very much intrigues me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it'll be a character that I'm sure you love, that you're going to get a whole new take on. I
will. I don't remember if I ordered that or not. If I didn't, I will go out and buy it.
Great. I've been graciously blessed. By the way, I just wanted to say real quick that our longtime friend and cohort David D has been giving me his digital codes for that series as he gets them from the stands. So, wanted to put a shout out there to our longtime moderator and good friend David D.
Isn't he swell, gang? One quick question, Ian, because I've forgotten. It's not enormously important, but as a geek, I just want to know which Jean Grey is this?
That is the Jean Grey. That's the original. All of the young versions were sent back in time a little while ago.
So that really fun Bendis series where the young X-Men from the Silver Age ended up in the present. Mm-hmm. They're all gone now.
Yeah, they're all back where they belong. They're all back in the past.
And this Jean Grey is the original. She's resurrected again, and all that.
Yep, sure is. There was a series that came out not too long ago that revived her.
And does she still have Phoenix powers?
No. I believe that series covers it. I think she's just straight up Jean.
Okay, and I thought Professor X was dead.
He got better.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe, and this is another thing I'm going to have to read, is that I think it was Charles Soule's Astonishing X-Men that dealt with the return of Professor Xavier in one form or another.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. X-Men 1 on page 2. Hickman and Francis Yu. I'm certainly going to try this.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You can try it for 50% off at tcbservice.com.
Yep. So, and it's all the Summers, which is very interesting.
Yep.
Even ones I thought were dead. Not that really matters much anymore, but
yeah, I don't know Hal Vulcan's back. That much I can't tell you.
But as you noted in the last time, you got to have Wolverine in the first issue of a new X-Men book. Come on.
Oh, exactly. In fact, they'll find a way to make him a Summers. Like
yes, he's been around a long time, and that's my favorite Wolverine costume, by the way.
Oh yeah.
As you mentioned, there's Excalibur 1. Murd was disappointed about Marauders 1 because it's not actually the Marauders.
Yep.
No, but it is Captain Kate Pride Privateer, and she does have at least one mutant criminal pyro as part of her crew, so maybe I'll give it a try after all.
And very important, she has Lockheed with her.
Oh, of course.
Yep.
Essential accessory for any seafaring mutant pirate.
Yep.
And again, I have to point out on page 12 and 13, I love these True Believers, dollar copies of a lot of great stories. By the way, our next comic talk, be prepared for my orgasmic torrent of praise of the Marvel's one-shot that came out recently.
Ooh, I've yet to read that.
Oh.
Yeah.
We will talk, sir.
Excellent.
All right, Marvel, I'm not personally interested in Absolute Carnage unless you guys want to talk about it.
Unless there's something that catches my eye this time around. Murd, any standouts like last time that we were discussing these? Or
well, for anyone who's reading Immortal Hulk in single issue form, there on page 19 there is an Immortal Hulk Absolute Carnage tie-in written by Al Ewing, the regular Immortal Hulk artist, writer. So
Okay.
maybe not to be missed there. That seems like the kind of thing they might include in a future trade of Immortal Hulk.
Sure.
So just fingers crossed.
Yep.
Well, as we mentioned before, for me, Immortal Hulk is one of the most compelling books out there of all the comics that I'm currently reading. And it's certainly one of the most dynamic interpretations of the Hulk that I've ever seen. I mean, again, they're just taking the Hulk kind of back to his roots, really, but with a whole new twist on it. By the way, remind me next time we do a comic talk. I just read today the magnificent Peter David Dale Keown, I mispronounced his name, I think, one-shot Hulk story they did. Just
Nice.
wonderful.
Good.
So we'll talk about that too.
On page 24, The Amazing Mary Jane, #1. Written by Leah Williams with art by Carlos Gomez, with a cover by Humberto Ramos. And spinning right out of the pages of Amazing Spider-Man, we've got Mary Jane in her own ongoing series. That's a thing that happened, people.
Taking on her own kind of villainous arch nemesis in the wilds of Hollywood.
Yep.
And of course, this is all the result of a scheme by Mysterio, and there's apparently another, even more sinister manipulator pulling his strings. Sounds like there could be a lot going on here. A little confused as to what the duration of this series is going to be, though. I mean, it says all new ongoing series in large letters, but down below we are promised, quote, more action, glamour, grit, and, we'll say it, sass than anyone's previously dared to fit into 5 fabulous issues. So, what if that just means that Leah Williams and Carlos Gomez are only signed on for a 5-issue arc, and then Marvel will just punt it to somebody else afterwards, and if nobody's biting, they'll just let it die at that point? It's hard to know whether you're looking at a finite or an open-ended series anymore.
Yep. They make that hard over at Marvel, especially when they stealth cancel things, which has been another thing that's been going on lately.
Yeah. Series
I'm very intrigued. I'm sorry, Murray, go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say anything important, Chris. Go ahead and talk about Amazing Spider-Man Full Circle.
No, actually, I was jumping ahead to page 44.
Oh, all right.
Fantastic
I'll
Four,
talk about
grand
Amazing
design.
Spider-Man Full Circle. Yes. I will interrupt you after all, Chris. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Pages 26 and 27. It's a one-shot. It's 96 pages. It's $9.99, so I'm not going to buy it. But it seems to me to be an example of the round-robin form of storytelling, similar to that 12-issue DC Challenge series that DC did back around 1986. It looks like a bunch of really great creative teams. Jonathan Hickman and Chris Pacello, Jerry Duggan and Greg Smallwood, Nick Spencer, Mike Allred and Laura Allred, Kelly Thompson, Valerio Schiti, Al Ewing of Immortal Hulk, and Chris Sprouse, Chip Zdarsky and Rachel Stott, Jason Aaron and Cameron Stewart, and then a whole bunch of them just kind of going to town together. It seems like what we've probably got here is just a bunch of different chapters of a single story. A round robin is when different storytellers tell one part of a story and then challenge the next storyteller up to resolve and build on and continue from whatever point storyteller A left off. So
Like what DC did with their Commandy miniseries a couple years back.
Yep, exactly, Chris. That's also an example of this round robin thing. And things must have gotten wacky just looking at these art samples we've got here because Spider-Man was a wolf once, Jeremy.
Yes.
Try it, drunk cap. We miss you.
That keep them flying, drunk cap. That looks like an interesting one-shot. It's just a little too pricey.
Well, it'll be on Marvel Unlimited soon enough, and I will read it there.
Yeah, I'm going to try this in one form or another because, Mert, I'm glad you mentioned this because I was remiss. The creative teams are amazing. So interested to see what they do with it. Plus, look at the Mike Allred image on page 28.
Yes.
That is tremendous. All right, I was on page 44. This is in the spirit of the X-Men Grand Design series they did, which were wonderful, by Ed Piskor. This is by Tom Scioli, and it's going through the Silver Age history of the Fantastic Four. Now, if you read Grand Design, the X-Men version, Piskor does a wonderful job of taking through all the key beats of the X-Men's history in the Silver and Bronze Ages. They are immensely. If you love those stories, you will love these books. Plus the paper style. They did do the style like old newsprint. It's like the gutters are not white; they're like cream color, like they're faded. It's so well done. These books. I'm looking forward to how they do the Fantastic Four here.
And as am I. And speaking of the Fantastic Four, the very next page, Doctor Doom #1. Christopher Cantwell on writing and Salvador Larroca on art. And Larroca's known for drawing a pretty damn good Doom. So
He sure is.
Yeah. So
he did a run with Chris Claremont, if I remember correctly.
He did. Yep.
On Fantastic Four, they had some great Doom stuff in there. I'm certainly getting this.
Oh yeah.
What is Cantwell? I'm not familiar with his work. What has he written?
He has a couple of things out from Dark Horse right now. He's doing a series called Everything from Dark Horse, which is kind of like it's about a cursed big box store that shows up in a small town in Michigan. And he's also writing that miniseries featuring The Mask that's debuting at Dark Horse this month.
All right.
And he's also one of the creators, I believe, of the *Halt and Catch Fire* TV show, which I was a huge fan of on AMC when it aired.
Oh, okay. High praise then. Page 48. So happy to see the title Bizarre Adventures back. If you want to go back to Marvel history in the early 80s, this is one of their black and white magazines, which also often featured many different Marvel characters, but they were like out of continuity, just the creators kind of doing what they wanted with the characters. The first solo Black Widow story ever read was an issue of Bizarre Adventures. And I'll say more on that in the not-too-distant future.
Tantalizing.
Indeed. But this is a great concept. And, hey, it's got Shang-Chi in it. And Murd, Ulysses Bloodstone.
Yes, indeed.
Great Pacheco cover.
Yeah, this is a definite maybe.
So page 50, I guess you could say page 53 or page 52, Contagion. Interesting. A new evil beyond understanding comes to the Marvel Universe, written by Ed Brisson, with art by a bunch of different people. And they describe it as a seemingly unstoppable force has invaded the Marvel Universe, and it's going to take every hero the streets of New York has to stop it. And it looks like the Thing is on on one of the covers of this, fighting a whole bunch of moloids. So I think this may be them doing Deceased, but I hope I'm wrong.
Which in turn was DC doing Marvel Zombies. So.
I know. Since they're putting out a Marvel Zombies comic, I hope I'm wrong and that this is just something else. But from the description there, it does sound like it's a disease breakout and the heroes need to deal with it.
Well, it is great to see Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Moon Knight.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I don't know how. I don't think I'm going to read this, but
cover art certainly is cool. I'll give them that.
Yeah. Look at that look on page 59. Look at that artwork. Oh, I think at some point we should do a episode down the road where we can all just talk about the Immortal Hulk.
Yep.
This book is really important.
Oh yeah.
Because it's and you don't see this isn't something you see frequently with the big two, but they're doing something innovative and new with an iconic character. At the same time, though, with totally adhering to the history of the character, it's all there. But probably some of the most terrifying Hulk stories I've ever read. So, Hidden Gem variant cover by Gene Colan and Rudy Nebres. Wow.
Also,
go ahead, Murd. I'm sorry, Ian. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention that Paco Medina is joining Dan Slott on art for Fantastic Four as of issue 15, and that cover looks damn fine.
Yep.
By Nick Bradshaw, and Medina himself is no slouch. So looking forward to it.
What else for Marvel, my friends, in floppies?
I think that's just about it for me.
Page 56, Future Foundation #3. We're embarking on a Molecule Man story. Picking up on the importance of Owen Reese's role in the reconfigured Marvel multiverse in the wake of the Secret Wars story a little while ago.
And I know you're a Owen Reese fan, Mert.
Absolutely, Chris. His is the probably of all Marvel characters, his is the power set I would most want to have. And so anytime he's involved in a story, I'm probably going to buy it. And I'm probably going to buy Future Foundation #3.
Okay, a couple of things I wanted to shout out before we leave Marvel. On page 89, this morning I read the first issue of the History of the Marvel Universe by Mark Waid and Javier Rodriguez. Murr, do you have this book?
I have this book. I have been through it. I'm satisfied that it's everything I could have hoped for, Chris.
Murr, I was going to say, if there's ever a book made for people like you and me, this is the book.
Mm-hmm.
That first issue, I'll go into more detail in a comic talk, was simply sensational. I mean, if I'll say this, if readers or listeners want to get in on, like, if they want like an accessible way to understand, the understandably daunting history of the Marvel Universe, not the movie verse, the comic books, just get this miniseries. Mark Waid is at the top of his game, and everything you need to know is there in a readable format. And the art is magnificent. It almost has almost like an animated feel to it to a degree. This is a tremendous series.
Yes.
So
no better comics historian / storyteller to execute this this agenda to weave into a single comprehensive and entertaining narrative all the many different disparate threads of Marvel history and prehistory spat out at random by different writers over 80 years of comics. It's a daunting task, but Waid is more than equal to it.
And I also want to bring up, this is very important, on page 96, the great Roy Thomas returns to the character he made in the world of comics, because he brought it over from he made a licensing deal in the early 70s with the Robert E. Howard estate. Roy Thomas is writing Savage Sword of Conan 10 with art by Alan Davis. Once again, art by Alan Davis.
This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill.
So let's riff with your drill analogy there, Ian. When I'm ducking and covering, I'm going to have this book beneath my desk. Oh, wow.
Outstanding.
Look at those pencil pages, by the way. This will be purchased by me so fast, it's not even a question. All right, I only have one more thing in Marvel to get. You guys have anything else?
I mean, I have all the way down in the trade paperbacks something. So
that's
if you have
right.
Anything, yeah, okay. I have on page 122. It is the collection of the symbiote Spider-Man, written by Peter David with art by Greg Land and Iban Coelho. And this collects the 5-issue miniseries that Peter David put forth. That's supposed to broaden the storytelling of when Spider-Man was in the black costume. And it's Peter David, so enough said on that. And it's on sale February 2020.
I'm putting on page 120, Marvel Masters of Suspense, Lee and Ditko Omnibus Volume 2. So these are some of their great, creepy stories from the Atlas era, the 1950s and early 60s. Journey to Mystery, Strange Tales, Tales to Astonish, Tales of Suspense, Amazing Adult Fantasy, Amazing Fantasy. It's all, I mean, no one does these stories better than Ditko in terms of the visuals. And look at that cover. So if you're interested in that aspect of Marvel history, I highly recommend that. I'm glad to see a 2-page spread on page 127 acknowledging the greatness of the Immortal Hulk. Volumes 1 through 4. And now volume 5. Eisner Award nominee, Best Continuing Series. It should win, in my humble opinion. Also wanted to point out, it's been in print before, but I don't care. I'm going to mention it again because it's a masterpiece. Page 147, Vision, the Complete Collection.
Yep.
Written by Tom King, art by Gabriel Hernandez, Walta, and Michael Walsh. Walsh, excuse me.
Go ahead, please.
No, I was saying we praise this book ad nauseum on the air. Listeners have gave it a lot of love in the awards that we did. It's an Eisner winner. It's one of those rare stories where they take an established character, they put that character on its head without changing anything about the character's history, and you just walk away with it just jonesing about how great the comic book medium can be.
Yep.
So,
yeah. And
you know what? This reminds me. I'm sorry, and
No.
I was so when I had the same feeling when I read History of Marvel Universe 1 today. I actually was like walking around my house hooting and hollering because it was so damn satisfying to read a book that good.
all right.
And that's the way Vision is.
I'll make it happen. I'll get my hands on History of the Marvel Universe. I gotta do that for me. But what I was going to mention was on page 142, and something else that you might take a appreciation of: Power Man and Iron Fist Epic Collection Doombringer trade paperback. It's volume 3 of the Power Man and Iron Fist Epic collections, written by Busiek, Grant, Archie Goodman, Alan Rowlands, and pencils by Dennis Cohen, Greg LaRocque, Ernie Chan, Jeff Isherwood, and Richard Howell. And
It's a great series. I'm glad you brought it up, Ian. One of the all-time great sort of buddy teams in comics. And this series, they kind of anything went with that series. They put them in all kinds of different situations, supernatural, street-oriented. The characters, of course, came from totally different worlds, yet they developed a believable friendship. Always an all-time favorite series of mine.
Yep.
And that was some of Kurt Busiek's first work, I think.
Yeah, for Marvel, certainly.
Yep.
Yep.
And on 144, not necessarily for the collection itself, but X-Men Milestones Fatal Attractions trade paperback has on the cover the image of the very first comic book that I remember buying, which is Uncanny X-Men number 300.
300.
Yep. As this collects Uncanny X-Men 298 to 300, then 303 to 304, and then a whole bunch of issues of X-Factor, X-Force, and X-Men Unlimited, and Excalibur, collecting the whole Fatal Attractions arc. But had to point that one out for my childhood.
Ian Levinstein's Secret Origins.
The more you know.
You guys ready to move on to the rest of the book?
Let me throw one more in there.
Sure.
On page 145, Deadpool by Joe Kelly. Deadpool has become maybe a little bit overexposed over the past decade or so of comics, but back in 1997, he was still fresh and kind of a hot item. This was his first ever ongoing series after a couple of miniseries. It was written by Joe Kelly, art at first by Ed McGuinness. And those issues are pretty hard to find nowadays. So Marvel is starting to collect them. It makes good sense to me. And so this is a collection of the Joe Kelly issues of that first ongoing. The first 11 issues plus a -1 flashback issue from the flashback event. The Daredevil Deadpool Annual 97 and... for variety, Amazing Spider-Man, Volume 1, number 47, because one of those Deadpool stories was a time travel story in which Deadpool went back in time and used an image inducer to impersonate Peter Parker and basically lived out the events of Amazing Spider-Man, number 47, with different snarky dialogue.
I love it.
Some fun, groundbreaking Deadpool stuff. It's one of those runs that helped Deadpool become the Merc with a mouth that he is today.
Murd, well put. I remember... from my retailer days, those back issues were so expensive. Yeah, not cheap. I've been remiss in this the past few months that Christopher Priest is writing Vampirella for Dynamite.
Yes, he is.
On page 206. I've never really read Vampirella. Nothing against the character. I've never read the concept. But I have to try this just because he's writing it. I'm fascinated to see what he's going to do with Vampirella. You guys read in Boom?
Well, before we move past Dynamite,
go for it.
See, on page 182, we've got another one of these Project Superpowers spin-off projects with the classic Golden Age hero Black Terror. It's a miniseries, I think it's a miniseries. It doesn't really say one way or the other. But first issue written by Max Bemis, art by Matt Gaudio. And the interview with the author here says that it's going to be set in the 1970s. It's going to engage with some of the topics of that era, but it's not going to be totally retro style because, as Max Bemis says, quote, "I'm not classy enough to write a book like Astro City." So it's it's a Black Terror series, and I'm probably going to be on board with it.
All right. Boom has a Strange Sky. I'm on page 214. Strange Skies over East Berlin, #1. I always love a good Cold War yarn involving intrigue and espionage. Written by Jeff Loveness, illustrated by Lysandra Estherin. Herring is a disillusioned American spy stationed in East Berlin, struggling with a Cold War that seems to have no end. Behind enemy lines, he learns that the Soviets have a secret weapon that could change the tides, an alien monster that they don't understand and can't control.
Yeah, it sounds interesting, and it certainly certainly has a striking title. Like I can easily see that being turned into a movie just by the name alone.
Yes. Yep.
And 50% off on DCBS, by the way, for $1.99.
And on page 218, a new Buffy comic, Buffy and Angel crossover, called Hellmouth. Joss Whedon is providing, I'm assuming, plot ideas for this. His name's at the top.
Yeah.
This I haven't watched in so long, but this show was so important to me. And I have to sit down at some time and watch more of it because it's been so many years. When I was watching it, and I watched most of the show as it was coming out, just like watching what was really a comic book come to life on television, because you saw Whedon's influences and what he loved. It's what a great series.
Yeah, and this is part of the retelling, by the way. So that's
what I figured. Yeah.
So this is going to be a whole, a whole different continuity than what you're used to, and bringing that first crossover together. And yes, Joss Whedon's name may be first on the cover for this miniseries, but he ain't writing it. It's Jordy Belair. So
yeah.
I think they should really stop putting Joss Whedon's name on these books, to be honest, because I think he's just basically nodding and saying, "Yep, you can do that," more than anything else. But that's just me.
I don't foresee that happening.
Oh, I know.
Ian.
Oh, I know. They got to sell them somehow, and that's one way to do it. It's just I just in general dislike, at least on the cover, a name
they
being
should
there.
Move his name to a different section of the masthead. Kind of like Stan Lee presents.
Yeah.
Maybe move it up above the title in that regard. Joss Whedon 'S Hellmouth.
Yep.
And leave the real creators to have their proper byline down below.
Exactly. Something similar actually to what they're doing with Firefly, because the Firefly trade paperback says created by Joss Whedon and then lists Greg Pak. That's really all I want on there. This cover blurb just makes it look like it's being written by him, which is clearly not the case.
Right.
I'm all the way into like page 246, guys. So shout out whatever you want to shout out before then.
Let's see. I will mention issue 2 just because I like saying the name of Something is Killing the Children. Is out this month. Did mention issue 1, so let's go ahead and mention issue 2.
Okay, I want to point out on page 246 the Ablaze imprint, The Cimmerian, Queen of Black Coast #1. For the first time, Robert E. Howard's Conan is brought to life uncensored. Wow. Discover the true Conan, unrestrained, violent, and sexual. Read the story as intended. Pursued for killing a judge, Conan finds refuge on a merchant ship. Instead of setting sail, the Cimmerian and his new companions face a threat, the legendary Belit, self-proclaimed Queen of the Black Coast. That's, of course, these are very famous characters from the Conan stories. So it also includes the original Robert E. Howard short stories from the pulp version. Wow. I love Conan. What else, guys? I just wanted to shout that out.
Only other thing I'll mention is they're collecting the newspaper strips of Rugrats, which is kind of cool. I didn't even know there were newspaper strips of Rugrats. And
neither did I.
Yep, and on page 238, they're collecting that with written by Scott Gray, Steve Crespo, and more. Collects the entire run of the Sunday Rugrats the newspaper strips collection.
Kyle Baker drew some of those, huh?
Interesting. Yep. Who would have thunk it?
I wouldn't have thunk anybody had drawn a Rugrats newspaper strip because, as we've established, none of us knew it existed. Well, here's our chance to find out what we've been missing.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Ian, I'm just leaving the book. I'm in the Bantam section on page 298 where they have George R.R. Martin stuff. I did finish Game of Thrones.
Oh, really?
Yes, I did.
General thoughts without spoilers?
Immensely satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand why some people felt it was rushed. But I think what happened, if you go back and watch the whole show, made sense.
Yeah. No, and I would agree with you on that. It's just that I still feel like they could have used 10 more episodes.
Oh, without question.
Yeah.
But I loved it, and we can talk about it in more detail another time.
Absolutely.
But just a fantastic television viewing experience.
Yep. I'm bouncing back, by the way, on page 256. We got one out of Action Lab. Kill Switch #1, written by Susan Bridges and Jeffrey Bridges, with art by Walter Giovanni. And it's in a future where clairvoyant augurs are used for their powers but feared. Held in a future where I'm saying it again, aren't I? Held captive and persecuted, a dissatisfied military major is shocked into action by the grim realities of the augur's treatment. She puts her life and career on the line to help them attempt a daring escape from captivity. Sounds like a nice spacefaring adventure title out of Danger Zone.
All right, I'm jumping ahead because I have to depart fairly soon because I got to do something with my kids. But page 328, First Comics. I don't know if this is the same First that was an indie publisher in the 80s, but Hamilton, the graphic history of America's most celebrated founding father. I'm always excited to see history addressed in comics, written by Steve Stern, art by Stan Timmons, cover art by Hoyt Silva. Apparently this is a biographical take on Hamilton's life. I mean, Hamilton is very much in the pop culture now because of the musical, but putting all that aside, one of the most important of all the founding fathers for a whole host of reasons. And I hope this book does that justice. So it's great to see that. Go ahead, guys. Sorry, I just wanted to hit that before I leave soon.
No problem. I've got on 260, Dark Ark, After the Flood, #1, written by Cullen Bunn. It's a return to the series, but just wanted to mention it for the sake that it's written by Cullen Bunn. And looks like it's now that the denizens of the Dark Ark have beaten Noah's Ark to land, a new social order must be created, one based on the rule of monsters. And I do like Cullen Bunn's work, so that might be worth checking out.
Excellent writer.
Yep, that's an aftershock.
Hermes Press at page 335, Frank Thorne's Ribbit hardcover. I love Thorne's work. His masterful blend of medieval sorcery and modern science becomes together in another universe where only Ribbit, the warrior woman created by magic, fights the final battle to save her world from the force of chaos and darkness. I never heard of this. It's an extended narrative and 4 comics released by Comico. There's Comico again in 1989. It's been now reprinted in between 2 covers, limited print one of 1,000 hardcovers. Oh, Thorne is a tremendous artist. Page 336, the Captain America 100 Project. This is for the Hero Initiative, which, of course, provides financial support to aging comic book creators. Art by John Cassaday, Alan Davis, Dave Gibbons, Adam Kubert, George Perez, Walt Simonson, Joe Sinnott. Wow, one printing of this book ever. Wow.
Sounds good.
Very impressive.
Yep.
Also on page 343, Marvel's Spider-Man from Amazing to Spectacular by Matt Singer, $45 hardcover. It's a reference book. Takes you to the whole history of the character. Art, exclusive interviews from creators like Bendis, Buscema, Conway, DeFalco, DeMatteis, Michelini, Ross, Slott, Straczynski, Stern. Wow.
Damn.
So it's like an in-depth look at the comic book history of the character, which that's right up my alley.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll shut up, guys. I'm not blasting too much because I have to depart soon, but I just wanted to shout out a couple things there.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We like hearing you shout out everything.
You're blowing smoke up my middle-aged rectum, sir, but I appreciate it.
I have no idea what you're talking about, sir.
Ian, I gotta contact you soon about Coney Island. That's an essential sojourn there.
Absolutely.
Last thing I want to point out before I head for the hills. Again, what would be a preview without mentioning tomorrow's?
Mm-hmm.
So page 399, Jack Kirby Collector 78, silver anniversary issue, goes in depth into many different facets of Kirby's career, challenges of the unknown. I revamped Golden Age Legacy characters of the 60s, the Silver Surfer. Let's see. Spotlight pivotal decisions, both good and bad, Kirby made throughout his comics career. So I love that. What's great about this magazine, it's not like it's just looking at things from one perspective. It's also looking at it from other sides of the Kirby history and legacy as well. If you're a Kirby fan, this is an essential publication. And if you just want to get into Kirby, just start reading Jack Kirby Collector. And back issue 117, superhero stand-ins. John Stewart as Green Lantern, James Rhodes as Iron Man, Beta Ray Bill as Thor, Captain America Substitute U.S. Agent, Azrael, Superman's Hollywood proxy, Gregory Reed. What a great magazine. I love their concepts like that. All right, brothers, I must depart.
Glad you stuck around as long as you could, sir.
Yeah, I leave the rest of it in your more than capable hands.
Excellent.
I'll be emailing you both soon to get kickstarted, not in the internet sense, but in terms of just using it as a colloquialism, the topic we were talking about off the air, so we can hopefully arrange that soon.
Yes, indeed.
And I wish you both a very fine evening.
Same to you. Have a good night, sir.
Good night, Murd.
All right, so just the two of us for the rest of this.
Mm-hmm. We can make it if we try.
Yes, we can. So, what have you, sir?
What have I? Okay. Well, I know you guys talked about Aftershocks a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to talk up the new volume of Dark Ark by Colin Bunn and Juan Doe.
Mm-hmm.
That's a neat concept. It's about the goings-on that other ark that set sail during the biblical flood. Not the one with all the animals, but the one with all the dark supernatural creatures and monsters on board. Vampires and manticores and the like. As we begin the second volume, Dark Ark After the Flood, the two arks have run aground, and all the long-leggedy beasties on board the Dark Ark are hungry. So the current captain of the Dark Ark has to figure out a way to lure some of those tasty paired animals from Noah's Ark into the clutches of the monsters on board the Dark Ark. So yeah, that's been a good read all along. Lots of fun intrigue amongst the captive passengers of this menagerie of darkness and madness that is the Dark Ark. Did you guys talk about Shoplifters Will Be Liquidated?
No, we did not.
Okay, so yeah, that's on pages 262 and 263. And the high concept for Shoplifters Will Be Liquidated is imagine Judge Dredd working for Amazon, and you've got a hint of what you're in for. It's about the kind of a futuristic, super big box retailer and the new breed of loss prevention officers that have had to evolve to counter the futuristic types of shoplifting and, I guess, ISP theft that are developing in this new type of superstore. And apparently there's, on top of all that, there's a whole subculture, a whole society dwelling in the sub-basements beneath this superstore. And sounds like a good late capitalist science fiction.
I wanted to mention while we're in Aftershock on 258, I missed this the first time around. Marguerite Bennett has a new hardcover out. Do enjoy her writing quite a bit, and this is a hardcover called Horde, and it's about after the death of her father, Ruby Ando tries to reconnect with her estranged and isolated mother, whose hoarder house is a nightmare labyrinth of secrets and dangers. Yeah, that sounds right up the Halloween alley.
Yes, also strikes a chord with a certain segment of the geek population who maybe have too much stuff lying around their houses.
No idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, neither do I. And neither does Pants.
Oh, most definitely not. Now, I forget whether or not Mr. Eberly touched on page 267, but if he didn't, I will mention it now. Jimmy's Bastards, the hardcover complete series by Ennis and Russ Braun on art, and this collects the whole damn thing of Jimmy's Bastards. I believe this came out a couple years ago, if I remember correctly. But this is collecting the entire series into one complete set.
Yep, and a good Elysian read it is, too.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a classic James Bond-style philandering, sex maniac secret agent whose checkered past catches up with him in a big and forceful way, as he's forced to contend not merely with his somewhat outmoded personal philosophy in the contemporary PC era, but he also has to literally deal with the consequences of all the different slutty spy chicks that he's had relations with over the years. All of his illegitimate children form a little cult to try to take him down. Fun, wacky read. It's Ennis's take on the 60s spy subgenre. Some fun interplay between the main character, Jimmy Regent, and his empowered female partner. I'm pretty sure I nominated this for something somewhere along the way in one of our Best of Awards a couple of years ago. So
clearly this is Garth Ennis's other children's book, right?
Oh, sure. Well, there's children in it.
Oh, okay. Good times.
Yep. Much more about children than it is for them. Let's put it that way.
Yep. I do have a children's book on page 274, but if you have anything before that, go right ahead.
No. You take it away, Ian.
All right. Augie and the Cockroaches, based on a popular YouTube animated series. Augie is a cat that just wants to watch TV, but those pesky cockroaches, Joey, Dee Dee, and Marky, aren't happy until they drive poor Augie crazy. The incredible premiere issue delivers 2 new stories, 20,000 Cockroaches Under the Sea, and A Bump in the Night. And I had literally never heard of this until now, but if it's popular with the kiddos, I may just give it a shot on YouTube at some point. But yeah, Augie and the Cockroaches on page 274.
Yep, looks like a good old-fashioned John Kricfalusi style predator and prey kind of cartoon narrative.
Yep.
All right, I think I'm going to jump clear ahead to page 311.
Go right ahead.
And probably the thing that excites me the most out of everything in this month's catalog, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, A Visual History.
Wow.
Yep, this is being published through Clarkson Potter. Go behind the scenes of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood with this unprecedented dive into its storied history. Wonderful anecdotes from special guests, actors, directors, art designers, producers, studio musicians, John Costa and his combo, and more who devoted their careers to working with Fred. Chronicling the complete timeline of the show from its humble beginnings to its commemoration in the upcoming film featuring Tom Hanks as Fred Rogers. This incredibly comprehensive book celebrates the Mr. Rogers legacy between its 2 covers. Exclusive photographs, a guide to the characters, puppets and episodes, interviews with some of Fred's special guests and cast and crew, rare ephemera, the ultimate fan guide. I have been longing for a book like this to be published for a long while here, Ian. In the very early days of my youth, my earliest experiences as a TV viewer, and this is going back into the prehistory. This is even before Saturday morning cartoons were a concept to me. My holy trinity was always Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and The Electric Company in that order because they aired on that order on the local PBS affiliate.
Yep.
I loved Mr. Rogers dearly. I wandered away from his neighborhood of make-believe later in childhood, but I rediscovered it again when I was in grad school. It helped to ground me and keep me sane during the stresses of pursuing my master's degree. And I will. There's no way in hell I am not buying this book. In Jamie D terms, this is a buy for me.
Yep. Yeah. I think for me, growing up, it was Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, and then reruns of Zoobilee Zoo. I remember I used to air on the local PBS affiliate, and I loved it. And Ben Vereen was the best part of that whole damn thing.
Of Zoobly Zoo.
Yeah.
Which animal was he supposed to be?
I'm blanking on it at the moment. Let me look that up. But Ben Vereen was Mayor Ben, a snow leopard.
Oh, all right.
Yep, and he's the only real famous person that came out of Zoobly Zoo. Although I'm sure they're famous in their own ways, except for Louise Valance. Valance also has a Wikipedia entry, at least. She was the kangaroo. But I remember loving that as a kid.
I was a little old for it when it came around, but I do remember seeing 1 or 2 episodes, and I remember Ben Vereen being on there and thinking he looked like some kind of cat or rabbit or something, but until just now, I was never sure what species. So thank you for clearing that up, Ian.
Thank you, Wikipedia, for clearing that up.
Credit where credit is due.
Exactly.
A little something under Fantagraphics. On page 327, Fantagraphics provided us the first volume of The Complete Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck several months ago, and now the second volume of this collection of classic duck comics by Don Rosa, outlining the rough and tumble storied past of everyone's favorite Anatine Skinflint, Scrooge McDuck, is being offered in this month's previews, and also a slipcase edition collecting both volumes of The Complete Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck. You don't save any money by ordering it that way, but at least you get a nice little outer casing to contain both volumes. Individually, they're $29.99 a piece for Volume 1 and Volume 2, and the box set is $59.99.
Nice. And going back slightly, by the way, on page 315, Day Street Books, Last of the American Girls, from Green Day, and co-authored and illustrated by artist Frank Caruso, comes a illustrated rendition of the band's classic hit Last of the American Girls. One of the most important and influential artists of their generation, high-energy rock band Green Day. It's just a whole bunch of flavor text after that. But it's interesting that it's this song of everything that's being made, and I do appreciate the cover a lot. So I may have to check this out in one form or another. Fully illustrated text of a Green Day song. So huge Green Day fan here. So that sounds good to me.
Must be very fully illustrated to stretch it out to 48 pages.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. All right. This is, I guess, technically 322, and they probably have a version of it in the back of the book. But they are finally making new action figures for Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I have to point that out because the original action figures sucked. They were very low quality, and there was never even a Katara. And
that's a crime.
It is, yeah. They went all boys because they were thinking that only boys would want to play with these figures, and it's half the reason why the toys never sold, and they never got to to the second leg of the toys, which would have had Katara included. But now they're finally putting out good versions of these, and when we get to the back of the book, I'm going to try to find what page it's on because I am very, very happy to see that collected. Very happy. And
I'm happy for you, Ian.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next thing I've got is in the humanoids part of the book. On page 338 with a big splash ad facing on page 339. It's a Rod Serling biocomic, The Twilight Man, Rod Serling and the Birth of Television, written and drawn by Corin Shadmi. And it's a story about television impresario and visionary producer and host Rod Serling, who gave the world The Twilight Zone and Night Gallery and other pioneering projects in the world of television, science fiction, and fantasy. It's a life worthy of celebration.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we wouldn't have, honestly, in some ways, we wouldn't have television today without The Twilight Zone. It's
certainly not as we know it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to learn more about his life, and this is a good way to do so. And right underneath that, by the way, on page 340, since we did mention Paul Jenkins, I'll mention his other book that's coming out this month, Scare City, as Paul Jenkins returns to Young Readers comics for the first time in a while. with art by Fred Pham Chung. It's about how tensions rise in a monster metropolis when spooky things start to happen to its citizens. Will they solve the mystery before the ancient rifts tear the community apart? Well, I guess you're just going to have to read and find out.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, good spooky fun. Once again, being released in October. Mm-hmm. And it is just good to see Paul Jenkins's credit appearing on anything these days.
Absolutely. Did you happen to see what was on page 344?
You know what? I think I did. Well, I have a little mark made here. We'll see if we're talking about the same thing. The storybook version of the Muppet Christmas Carol.
You guessed it.
All right, ding, ding, ding. Yep, it's that thing I just said. It's a storybook version of the Muppet Christmas Carol. Yep, 40 pages, full color, $18.95 for fans of that. I guess it celebrated its 25th anniversary last Christmas. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was released in 1993.
Sounds about right. I'll take a look as you continue talking.
No, I'm correcting myself. It was 92.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, it was. I was in 8th grade, and I was just getting over the chicken pox. So yeah, it was 1992 and into 93. Yeah.
Yep, 92 it is.
Very good. So there we go. It's celebrating its 27th anniversary.
Came out on your birthday, by the way.
So what's that?
Came out on your birthday.
Huh?
Came out on January 1st, 1992.
Oh, that can't possibly be right.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that sounds a bit weird, but Wikipedia has it listed as release date January 1st, 1992.
Yeah, I think somebody entered something wrong there.
Alrighty.
Yeah, because it was 1992, but it was more like November, December.
Yeah, okay. When I actually click on the damn thing, it says December 11th. I don't know why it said January 1st otherwise, but yeah, you're correct. December 11th, 1992 sounds much more like it.
Yeah, made a lot more sense. Okay, so yeah, that exists. That's something for young budding Muppet fans to read and enjoy at Christmas time. Then on the facing page, a couple interesting things from a company called It's Alive. We have the 51st issue. The first issue of this series published in 30 years now of Chuck Dixon's Airboy revival, which he launched at Eclipse Comics in the mid-'80s, ran for 50 issues, and now 30 years later, issue number 51 is finding its way to stands. Yep, so it's the further adventures of boy aerialist Davy Nelson III and his various friends, colleagues, and allies in the killer skies. Yeah, that's a well-thought-of series as independent comics of the mid-'80s go. I do have a trade of the first dozen or so issues of that Eclipse series, and they put out 4 more after that. So if you have those 5 trades, here's your opportunity to continue reading some new Airboy material written by Mr. Dixon with art by Brent McKee.
Very cool.
And on the following page, a new series called Pink Lemonade, written and drawn by Nick Cagnetti, which by appearances it's kind of a Ginchy 60s look to it. It's kind of like Penelope Pitstop meets Easy Rider. It's a motorcycle riding, free living, fruit beverage themed action heroine whose name is Pink Lemonade, who rides around on her motorcycle trying to do good deeds and doesn't always succeed in doing them. Her helmet has little lemons painted over her eye holes. It looks fun. It describes itself as a strange action-packed adventure, and as long as it delivers on the strange part. I think I'm going to give this a try, actually. This is the kind of comic I've been thirsting for.
Well, you quench that thirst.
I will, Ian.
350. We have a book that was one of Paste Magazine's most anticipated comics of 2019. It's titled Mooncakes, written by Suzanne Walker and illustrated by Wendy Zhu. And Nova Huang is still young, but she's one of the most powerful witches in New England. She spends her days working in her grandmother's spellbook shop and her nights hunting down the supernatural. And Tam Lang is a genderqueer werewolf and Nova's childhood crush. Tam has been wandering from place to place for years until the one fateful night they find themselves back in their hometown, battling a giant horse demon in the woods. Sounds really, really interesting. I like the art preview as well. In the following pages, certainly captivates the youth and energy of the title, and they actually look like kids, and I always appreciate that in books where kids are supposed to be kids. I dig it.
Yeah, it's not every artist that can or bothers to accomplish that, making kids actually look their age. So,
yep.
Yeah, I agree. Points for that.
Absolutely. And then the very next thing listed on page 355, Gail Simone, illustrated by Jose Luis, Catalyst Prime, 7 Days #1. Bye.
Yep, it's Gail Simone getting turned loose in a nascent and budding superhero universe, getting to do one of its first big crossover things. So,
Yep.
Yeah, that will probably be good.
Yep, this is resolicited, by the way, so this will be in stores on October 2nd. I believe this was solicited in the previous previews, but now it's definitely coming out.
There's usually something interesting and worthy of note under Oni Press. This month for me, that's on page 372, and it's the 5th volume or season of Xander Cannon's Kaiju Max, which is all about a Supermax prison for giant Japanese monsters. So yeah, it's just picture the HBO series Oz, only with giant kaiju beasts. Yeah, it's trippy, but it's also very it's pretty mordant satire and covering the Selly culture and turning it on its head and just throwing in all the denizens of Toho's Monster Island
Very
or
cool.
analogs thereof.
I do appreciate my monsters.
As do I.
Mm-hmm.
As do I. Monsters are people too.
Yep. Now, I didn't even know that this TV series was a thing, but now that I do, I am eagerly awaiting it. Page 374 resolicits Stumptown Volume 1 by Greg Rucka. And I've yet to read Stumptown. Now may be the time, because Colby Smulders is starring in a Stumptown series that is premiering on ABC this fall.
Yeah, very well cast. I do say so.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, see, I was aware of this because I watch a little more network TV than you do, Ian.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd kind of forgotten that there was a comic on which that show was based. So, yeah, we're both kind of sharing in our surprise here reading this solicitation.
Well, hey, Greg Rucka, that immediately has me intrigued. So this might be time to read Volume 1.
Seems like the perfect time, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting-looking original graphic novel on page 385 from Source Point Press. It's called Wild Strawberries at the World's End, written by Bruce Kim, art by Katia Vecchio. A supernatural murder mystery set in the 90s in rural South Korea. Interesting setting. Cover image is kind of intriguing. It's a guy wearing a bloodstained dress shirt and a freaky bird mask standing in the middle of a field of worm-infested wild strawberries.
Certainly seems like yet another book that'd be perfect to read around Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah, it's $5.99 for 56 pages. That's actually not a bad price point. Maybe I'll just throw that in my cart.
Why the heck not? Oh, wow. Okay, so on page 390, Titan Books is putting out a Robotech series. Robotech Remix, #1, written by Brendan Fletcher with art by Elmer Damaso. And a whole new saga in the series of Robotech begins here. And Brendan Fletcher, you might know from Batgirl, as well as the Ghost in a Shell and Attack on Titan anthologies that came out. And Elmer Damaso has done artwork on the Robotech Voltron series and Speed Racer before. This is probably a good way to get in the front door for people who are familiar with Robotech and those who are not. Looks like it's going to essentially continue the series in some ways. Yeah,
I am one of those who does not know much of anything about Robotech. I think I gave Titan tried a Robotech series written by Brian Wood a little while ago. I think I might have jumped on board with that one.
Yep, I believe you are right. Yeah, Robotech was one of those series that played a little bit differently in the Americas than it did overseas in Japan, but for the most part, they kept it as close to the series as they could, but they did certainly kidify certain aspects for the Saturday morning crowd when it originally aired.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know the episodes of that aired on Toonami on Cartoon Network a long while ago, but I never did tune into them.
Yep. Yeah, that one was as close to the original as you could get. Toonami was good about that.
Glad to hear it.
I don't think I have anything else in Titans, so it's going further down past the back issue that was already mentioned.
Yep, Chris gave us our tomorrow's deposition for the month.
Did he mention the MLJ companion?
He didn't.
Okay.
But yeah, that's one of those things that tomorrow's resolicits on a semi-regular basis. It's an older book of theirs.
Fair enough. Love hearing about the those characters, considering how often they get published by different publishers.
Yeah, really.
Remember the very short time they were part of the DC universe.
Oh, right. that was extremely brief.
Yep.
And that wasn't even the first time DC had published those characters, too.
Wow.
Remember the Impact universe?
Not really, no.
Yeah, it's a little before my time, honestly. It was very early 90s, like right around 1990, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and that didn't last all that long either.
Got anything in Valiant to throw out?
I don't think so. The only thing I'm getting from Valiant right now is the Dr. Mirage miniseries written by Maglin Visaggio.
Now, there's a book on page 412 by, I believe it's Vault Publishing, These Savage Shores, which has a pull quote by Scott Snyder and by Warren Ellis as promotion, which I think is enough for me, except for the fact that they also have a pull quote by Kieran Gillen singing its praises. So that may be enough to get me in. These Savage Shores. 2 centuries after the first European ship sailed to the Malabar coast and made landfall in Calicut, the East India Company seeks to secure its future along the lucrative Silk Route in the year 1766. An old evil now sails aboard a company ship, hoping to make a home in this newfound land. But he will soon find that the ground along the Indies is an ancient one, with demons and legends far older than himself.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow. It sounds like historical fiction about a European vampire in India?
Yeah. That certainly sounds like what it's about. Yeah.
Wow. Yes, vampirism being a pretty convenient metaphor for European colonialism on the subcontinent.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of sorry Chris isn't here to grunt in fascination about this, because it sounds right up his alley, too.
Sure, yeah. And the writer is, it's either pronounced Ram the Fifth or Ram V, and the artist is Sumit Kumar.
All right. I think you may have sold me on that, too, Ian.
Excellent. I've done my job.
Anything else in the foremost section of comics?
Don't think so. I think I'm on to manga.
All right.
Okay. Scroll like you mean it.
Scroll big or scroll home.
Exactly. On page 444, an incurable case of love. Which, yet again, could not scream manga more if it tried. After witnessing a handsome and charming young doctor saving a stranger's life 5 years ago, Nanase Sakura trained to become a nurse. But when she meets the doctor again and they start working together, she finds Kairi Tendo to be nothing like the man she imagined him to be. Ooh, I believe she has an incurable case of love.
Let's hope it's not contagious.
Yeah, no, it's
First thing I saw an old Saturday Night Live sketch on YouTube the other day, which this title reminds me of it. The Fault in Our Stars 2, the Ebola in our everything.
Oh, God. Yeah, you know what? You're probably not too far from the truth. Denpa on page 452 has Heavenly Delusion, Volume 1. Masakazu Ishiguro returns to the science fiction genre with a compelling tale of contrasting and potentially colliding worlds filled with their own unique horrors. Within the safety of the walls, youths are raised in a nursery setting by robots. Outside is a hellscape with powerful technology and equally powerful supernatural beings. So that may also be good for Halloween. It certainly has a nice sci-fi setting to it.
Well, anything with supernatural beings in its description, it's got a good chance to be Halloween appropriate.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's just about it for me on manga at this particular time.
All right.
Onwards to the quote-unquote back of the book so I can find those Avatar The Last Airbender figures. But if you have anything, please, by all means.
Well, as usual, I don't think I have anything to contribute at this time. I do see those Avatar figures on page 15.
Excellent. Okay, great. I'm scrolling down now. There we go.
Oh, boy. All right, I lied. On page 18 and 19, they're actually doing toys based on the 1979, I think it was, sci-fi quote-unquote classic, The Black Hole. The two funny robots and the one scary robot from that movie. Yeah, one of them was voiced by Slim Pickens, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I saw that on TCM sometime last summer, and 90 minutes I'll never have back.
On that very same page, they do have a very nice looking Rocketeer.
Yeah, that movie I've actually never seen.
Really? Huh.
Couldn't possibly be a bigger waste of time than The Black Hole.
Oh, I would say it'd be right up your alley. In fact, you might even get a greater appreciation for Captain America: The First Avenger after watching The Rocketeer, just because they're by the same people. You can
entirely possible. Now, I know it's a movie that Matt has enjoyed for a long time, but I've never seen it.
Oh yeah, well, if you get the chance, go ahead and make it happen.
My apologies to Shane for ripping so hard on The Black Hole, because I'm pretty sure Shane loves that movie, but I got no love for it. It nearly sank Disney Studios.
Oh yeah, and I've got two more I'll point out, and then I think we can go ahead and wrap up. On page M23, the DC Comics Gallery Killing Joke Joker PVC diorama. That is striking.
Yep, right out of Boland.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely love it. The colors are bold and basically captures the Joker exactly the way you'd expect him to look in that setting. And then on M25, there is a damn good Hela resin statue. Hella good.
Yep, I knew you couldn't resist.
And I believe I will call it a night there.
All right, then.
Excellent.
My bolt also is shot.
For sure. And give it one more shot to thank our sponsor.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Yes, this episode of Comic Geek Speak, like all previews episodes of Comic Geek Speak, was brought to you by the Discount Comic Book Service. Visit their website at dcbservice.com. Check out their discounts, their bundles, their options for shipping, and just make them your go-to for pre-ordering comic books via the internet.
Most definitely. And now, the end credits.
If you'd like to send us an email, our address is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave a voicemail, you can call 267-702-6642. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, where our handle is @comicgeekspeak. You can go to thecomicforums.vanillacommunity.com, which is our online forum, where you can talk back about this episode of our podcast and many others. Let us know what you're ordering from the catalog. React to one of our various snide remarks, if you like. Or engage in conversation with your fellow CGS listeners about a variety of other geeky topics not directly related to the show. We would like to thank, as always, everyone who has donated monetarily to the show anytime during the course of its run. We really appreciate it. The show would not be what it is today without your help. And as always, we're uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.
You got it on Wednesday, and you was psyched about it, going to the volume up. These guys will talk about it, everything that geeks love. From cakes to laser beams, opinions like the seasons, and everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek. Uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is Comic Geek Speak.
Well, you know what? You could always say the words "Good night, Chris." Now, and I'll go ahead and put it in.
Good night, Chris. Now.
Better.